In every sport, there are rules which must be followed, and there are consequences to breaking said rules. There might be a fine, might be a banning, might even be imprisoning. Phoenix Suns learned that the hard way by failing to disclose Booker's injury. How was he injured? How were the Phoenix punished? All this and more in today's video. First, let's talk about Devin Booker's injury. Devin Booker suffered a grade 1 hamstring strain in Game 2 of the Phoenix Suns series against the New Orleans Pelicans. Booker was in the middle of a stellar performance when he went down with the injury. He scored 31 points in 25 minutes, and when he dapped up a babysitting courtside, it appeared that the Suns were on their way to a 2-0 series lead against the number 8 seeded Pelicans. In the third quarter, however, Booker had to leave the game, and Phoenix went on to lose 125-114. The Suns will remain favorites as the series shifts to New Orleans, but pressure's on. They no longer have home court advantage, and while they had an 8-3 record in the 11 games they played without Booker before clinching the number 1 seed, only 3 of those games were played against playoff opponents. In December, Phoenix blew out a Boston Celtics game that was still starting Dennis Schroeder, and then it lost by 22 to a Golden State Warriors team that was on a tear. In March, the Suns hung out with the Milwaukee Bucks for 3 quarters before losing by 10 without Booker or Paul. The Bucks stars were available, but rotation players Brook Lopez, Wesley Matthews, Pat Connaughton, and George Hill were not. 7 of Booker's missed games were due to a hamstring injury he suffered in November. In the regular season, Phoenix scored a scorching 119.5 points per 100 possessions with Booker on the court, and a dismal 110.4 per 100 without him. Per Cleaning the Glass, which filters out garbage time, it made up for some of that though, by being 5.5 points per 100 possessions stingier on defense without him. Now, let's talk about Phoenix Suns being fined $25,000 after failing to disclose Devin Booker's injury status during first-round win. The NBA fined the Suns $25,000 on Saturday for, quote-unquote, violating league injury reporting rules. The league said that the team failed to disclose Devin Booker's injury status for Game 6 against the Pelicans in an accurate and timely manner. It was reported that the All-Star guard had a grade 1 hamstring strain after dropping 31 points in Game 2 against New Orleans. He sat out of the lineup over the next 9 days, missing games 3 to 5, while Phoenix went 2 to 1 in that stretch. It was initially reported that Booker could be out for 2 to 3 weeks, but he returned Thursday and scored 13 points on 5 for 12 from the field in the Suns' Game 6 victory. Coach Monty Williams was asked about the guard's injury after practice Saturday, and he said, per ESPN, "I thought he was fine. When I talked to him, he was straight with me. Like, Coach, I'm fine, I feel strong." But when you watch the film, he did find places where you saw he might go, or he might run full speed back in transition. It wasn't like he was cheating in the game, he was just more efficient. He hadn't played in over a week, so that probably had a lot to do with it, but in the second half, I thought I saw more of an effort to just play, and we needed it. Phoenix returns to action Monday as it hosts Dallas in the conference semifinals. In other news, Dorian Finney-Smith's improved 3-point shooting has helped Dallas keep even with Phoenix. The Phoenix Suns had just cut a 10-point fourth-quarter lead down to 6 after a made floater from Mikal Bridges with a little over 7 minutes left in Game 4 on Sunday. Dallas Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd called for a timeout with his team dangerously close to surrendering a lead it had 1 point built up to 17 points in the first half. The Mavericks know that there isn't a ton of room for error against a Suns team that recorded 64 wins in the regular season and had already put together 2 dominant performances in the first 2 games of the series to get a 2-0 lead. Mavericks superstar Luka Doncic quickly extended the lead back to an 8-point cushion after the timeout, but an 8-point advantage against a Suns team with the second best offense in the playoffs might as well be nothing, even if Chris Paul already had fouled at this point. This was the time for the Mavericks to try and put enough distance between them and the Suns to force Phoenix to wave the white flag. Typically, that would call for the heroics of Doncic, but the player who actually led that spark was Dorian Finney-Smith. In a span of 45 seconds, Finney-Smith put up 6 points, increasing his total to 24 points in the game. A steal and a rebound to help extend Dallas's lead from 8 to 14 points. The 6-year forward, who was lauded on social media during the game as an underrated player in the league, drilled back-to-back threes, something that didn't even seem like a possibility when he entered the NBA as an undrafted rookie back in 2016. If you've watched the Mavericks since Finney-Smith has been on the team, you know how significant his improvement has been, specifically his 3-point shooting. He went from shooting 29.3% on threes his rookie year to just 2.4 attempts per game, to sinking shots from downtown at a 39.5% clip on 5.4 attempts this season. Next, Duke's Paolo Banchero goes number 1 with Iowa Keegan Murray as surprising number 3 pick. If you took the names off the front of the jerseys, threw age out of the window and discarded recruiting accolades, it would be interesting to see how perceptions around the top of the 2022 NBA draft class would change. Keegan Murray of Iowa, who's ranked number 8 on the CBS Sports NBA Draft Big Board, might be the biggest benefactor factor in those circumstances. Because Murray was just a 3-star prospect coming out of high school, and because he'll be 22 when the next NBA season begins, seems likely he might be getting slighted just a tad in the lead up to the NBA Draft Combine, which begins next week in Chicago, by the way. To be sure, Murray's star sophomore season for Iowa catapulted him into being a likely lottery pick in the next month's draft, which is a sign of respect for the 6'8" forward. But if Murray were coming from a blue blood program instead of Iowa, which hasn't produced a first-round draft pick since Ricky Davis in 1998, it's worth wondering if his game is fully appreciated. Another factor that could have an influence on his stock is association with Luka Garza, who is similarly productive for the Hawkeyes, but did very little in his rookie season as a second-round pick in 2021 to suggest that he'll become a consistent contributor in the NBA. Ultimately, the differences in Murray and Garza could not be more distinct. Murray can do everything valued in the modern NBA on both sides of the floor, and he's still willing to do the dirty work. He's not the youngest prospect in his class, but he doesn't come from the sexiest college program. If you take away those external factors, though, there is a place in the conversation for Murray as a top 3 pick, and that's where he lands on this mock draft. Finally, Nuggets' Nikola Jokic wins NBA MVP award for second straight season per report. Nikola Jokic has won the 2021-2022 NBA MVP award, taking the league's top individual honor for the second consecutive year, per ESPN. Jokic's back-to-back MVP awards match the feat accomplished by fellow finalist Giannis Antetokounmpo during the 2018-19 and 19-20 seasons. The third finalist, Philadelphia 76ers center Joel Embiid, has never won the award. Aside from assists, Jokic managed to improve upon his per-game averages in every major statistical category in the regular season. He finished with a career high in points, which is 27.1, and also rebounds 13.8, blocks 0.9, and steals 1.5 per game. He also made a career high 58.3% of his field goals, and while he didn't match his career high in free throw or three-point percentage, he did set highs in total free throws, 379, and three-pointers, 97 made. The race between Jokic, Embiid, and Antetokounmpo was a fierce one. Embiid won the scoring title by averaging 30.6 points. Antetokounmpo's Milwaukee Bucks finished with the highest seed of the three, finishing third in the Eastern Conference with a 51-31 record. Embiid's 76ers had the same record, but finished fourth due to the tiebreakers. Jokic's Nuggets were a number 6 seed in the West, despite only winning 3 fewer games, and were ousted in the first round by Golden State Warriors. And all 3 MVP finalists had to overcome meaningful adversity to get their teams to where they did. Embiid played the first half of the season without Ben Simmons, who was sitting out due to a trade request, and Antetokounmpo had to play out the season at center due to an injury suffered by Brook Lopez. But Lopez eventually returned, and the 76ers traded Simmons for James Harden. Jokic got no such relief. Star teammate Jamal Murray didn't play a single game this season, and number 3 option Michael Porter Jr. played only 9 games. Jokic's team might have had a worse record than the other two, but his ability to keep the Nuggets afloat without their second and third best players likely won him the trophy. And that's all we had for today. Thanks for sticking with us until the end. Cheers.